Chronicles TV on air. We are now live in 3, 2, 1.
The Reaper's Notebook. Yeah, this notebook does have a lot of little stuff about what the Reaper got up these past 10 years. Name of victims, date, places and stuff, and the last entry there was 31st October. It was set grass for the place on the date and then the name of the mark. There was a note about him being a criminal what got away from the Reaper in court 10 years ago or something. But honest, the boss didn't do none of it. He was just investigating the Reaper, that's all. Keep personal opinion out of your testimony, witness. We require only established facts here. This must be so hard for her. You can't deny it now, surely, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. What can I deny? The notebook contained the name of the final mark and location where the assassination would take place. That information that the victim could have all known if he was working with the Reaper. So, who was to be this final mark? Go ahead, Inspector Lestrade. Read the name for the court. The name that's written alongside the entry that mentions the grouse on the 31st. How do you read this then? Reading still not her strong suit. That ain't the problem, right, Otto? It's a funny name. It's in English. It's hard to read. So it's someone from overseas? Let me have a bash at it. Say Shishiro? Yeah, say Shishiro. Jigoku. Maybe? What? It can't be. Say Shishiro Jigoku. But that's Judge Jigoku. Say Shishiro Jigoku. Certainly not an English name, you're right. But that can't be right. I know Judge Jigoku. And I saw him the day before yesterday here in London. So I know for the fact the man hasn't been assassinated. As I said, the Reaper failed. Oh. Gregson missed his chance to kill his mark and return to British shores. But the Reaper wouldn't tolerate the mistake. So he killed the inspector, personally. The Reaper of the course being the accused, Barrack von Zeeks. That's an undeniable logical argument. Kazuma, you planned for the trial to go this way all along, didn't you?
Hold it!
Pray forgive das courtesy of filling my hollow shell as well as I stand accused of murder. Lord von Zeeks! The accused has no right to speak uninvited in court. You will return to dock. I say nothing of whether or not I'm the Reaper. That's the task of the court to decide. But there is one thing I can say unequivocally. The girl is no detective. Huh? What? Nah, that's right, I ain't. I'm an inspector. That's the same thing, Chief. Repeating rumors heard around the yard. Reading entries from the notebook of unconfirmed origin. I just saw the freaking hand just face through the freaking thing. That's not a testimony. That's practically a script. No doubt the rest of the trial will go exactly as you clearly planned. Your hatred of me is understandable. In your mind, I'm sure I am the Reaper, who sent your father to the gallows all those years ago. While you're in danger of becoming a far more sinister Reaper yourself, by attempting to have me condemned with this feeble excuse for testimony. What do you say? Mr. Naruhodo, this is our chance. My lord, the defense requests the defendant be allowed to speak. He may be privy to important information relating to the testimony just given by the witness. Very well. I'll make an exception and grant the request. The defendant may remain in the witness stand for the cross-examination. Then allow me to toast the court's impartiality. Don't raise your glass in my direction, sir. Counsel for the defense, begin the cross-examination immediately. At once, my lord. The Reaper's notebook. Yeah, this is a notebook that does have a lot of stuff about what the Reapers got up to the past 10 years. In other words, it shows that Gregson was basically acting as the Reaper. None yet at all. That ain't the explanation, is it? He could have been investigating the Reaper in secret, and the notebook said when we found it. If I may. When originally people began referring to me as the Reaper, I didn't object. I believe the power to intimidate London's criminal classes into compliance with the law to be beneficial. But you carried out your own investigations into the true identity of the Reaper, didn't you? Yes, and those investigations proved conclusively that Gregson was one arm of the Reaper. One arm? What are you on about? The Reaper's victims were all extremely shrewd criminals at the top of their game. There is simply no way one person could have taken them on alone. The Reaper is an organization. With you at its head, I had spots at the yard keeping me abreast of Gregson's movements, letting me know when he was elsewhere. So I'd be able to check the most recent entry in his book. I knew the location. You knew it said grouse? Believing it to the reference to the Gentleman's Club, I went there on the day in question to investigate. Alone. Ah, so that explains why several members of the club claim to have seen you there. But of course, the inspector was not there. Because at the time he was making his way to the steamship dock on the northern coast of France, as shown by the passport found in the victim's metal trunk. Very well then, back to your testimony about the contents of this notebook. Fine. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruto? You seem a little shocked by something. Oh, no, it's alright. I'm overthinking this, aren't I? No. We never mentioned the metal trunk at all. We never did. He gave himself away. Hold it! He gave himself away. The murder's right in front of us. Names of victim, dates, places, and stuff. What in particular? Well, beside the victim's names, the other name kept cropping up. What other name was that? It's the one I told you yesterday. The same name written over and over. Shin? Asa Shin? Yeah, that's the one. She's a friend of yours or something, is she? Were you even listening yesterday? Asa Shin. The assassin? What? Like a killer, you mean? Gregson was the tactician, the one who came up with the plan of the attack. He investigated the marks thoroughly, finding out when they would be vulnerable, and who to use to get at them. But the person actually executing his plans was someone else, you're saying? If that's true, then the Reaper does indeed start to sound like an organized group of vigilantes. Then perhaps what is the passport document? Permission for the applicant of one additional person to travel. Could that additional person have been? Clearly the assassin, who was meant to take Seishiro Jigoku's life. Gina, can you confirm that? Against the final entry that lets the grouse in Seishiro Jigoku, what name was written? Oh, well, that's the only entry that didn't have a name next to it. It appears as it happens. What? It just had like a question mark or something there, I think. In other words, Gregson himself didn't know the identity of the assassin in that case. But Gregson was the one making the plans, was he not? Oh, how infuriating. A nameless assassin. Hold it! And you're saying the mark listed was Seishiro Jigoku? I keep studying every time I get to that part. That's what it said. Funny name if you ask me. And I thought your name was odd. So pleased to have lost my crown there. Mr. Jigoku is the presiding judge of Japan's Supreme Court of Judicature. I remember the man. He came to our country as a visiting student 16 years ago. Studying international law and diplomacy under your tutelage, Lord Strongheart. That bearded young fellow was a very able man, I must say. So Lord Strongheart was Judge Jigoku's mentor. I'm messing up. If I'm not mistaken, he returned to Japan 10 years ago now. 10 years ago, after that fateful case. Precisely. In the aftermath of the Professor case, his repatriation was organized immediately. It's a mystery why such a man would be listed in the inspector's notebook. I didn't think it was possible, but the mood here has got even worse now. Maybe I'll just keep talking. The note was about a criminal got away with Reaper's Court 10 years ago. Hold it! What do you mean a criminal? Judge Jigoku is no criminal. Well, don't ask me. I don't know nothing about it. Do you remember what Father told us? The judge didn't once appear in court here in Britain. It was related to the Professor case, I'm sure. Yes, of course, you're right. Saishisha was trying to mitigate Getcher's guilt, so he took the stand to testify. But he got a little carried away and actually managed to break the witness stand. He also said some contemptuous words with the British Empire, for which he was charged. It was a pitiful situation, yes. I forgot it all about it, but I prosecuted that trial too, as it appears. You did? It was considered to be adjunct to the professor proceeding, you see. Adjunct. But he was acquitted after being told to make reparation for the damage caused to the stand. And there you have it. Have what? Surely the accused hasn't forgotten his own rule. That there's no saving anyone who faces the Reaper in court, guilty or innocent alike. What? No! Are you suggesting that the reason Judge Yugo was targeted for assassination? The man was sent back to Japan immediately after the trial. The Reaper had no time to do his work. But then, 10 years later, the mark returns to Britain once more. Perhaps now you start to see just how vindictive the Reaper is. Come on! That's absurd! To take someone's life for that? Especially breaking the freaking stand. Isn't the whole premise of the Reaper absurd? Killing those who have been found innocent? Clearly the rules by which the man operates are beyond the sane person's comprehension. But... Objection! Right? I just had enough of this. Gina? All this nonsense about the boss planning to kill people? It's cobblers. Come on, Otto. Yes? Get to the point, Gina. Why ain't you say nothing? Why? Why ain't you yelling out objection or something? What? You've got to find a flaw. You do usually. Someone's lying here, no question. You got to work on who it is. Please, for the boss. We're still not done with you first. Come on now. That outburst was an insult to the court and to your own testimony. I might have known that a common pickpocket from the back slobs couldn't make a tech. Oh god damn. When this trial is over, you will forfeit your warrant card, Miss Lestrade. Is that clear? I've had it with the lot of ya. It's lies the ever bleeding place. You look in the world, ain't it? Well, I have enough. Gina. So have I. After that little speech of Gina's, I've made up my mind. To do what, Mr. Naruto? There was one point in this cross-examination when something that was said just didn't sit right with me. One statement that seemed odd. I still don't get it! I'm not going to let Gina's plea for help fall into deaf ears. Already? We weren't in this part. It was normal. There was a note about him got away for the Reaper and the court changes or something like that. It said grouse for the place and date and then the name of the mark. Names of the victims. Yeah, this note. Are we on about the freaking thing now? The thing that I'm thinking of? Hold it! Okay, throw me a bone. I want to thank you, Gina. You helped me find my resolve. Eh? What do you mean? Amongst everything we've heard during this cross-examination, there's one thing that defies explanation. One inconsistency. What? An inconsistency. Really, Otto? I don't quite know what it means yet, but... Yes, there's an inconsistency in something that was said by... Who? Him? Oh, we're talking about our own friend that just somehow found out what the heck the metal box meant. I'm gonna cut this right. Be right back. Okay, I'm just gonna assume because of what he said. So
Take that!
by you, Kazuma Sogi. Me? Is this some attempt at Phil bursting, Consul? Prosecutor Sogi has given no testimony. What are you suggesting I said that was inconsistent? You let something slip that you shouldn't have. When I present the relevant piece of evidence, I imagine you realize what you've done. Very well then, Consul. Go ahead. What evidence reveals this alleged inconsistency in something prosecutor has said? We're talking about the freaking thing that led to this. Because he said this, but we mentioned where this origin came from. So... Oh, come on! We're going back to this. To the box, Dan. To the box. Because he says... Because he stated the metal box. But... we said the freaking passport, but we didn't say no box. Oh, come on. Why are we giving the goddamn flashback? I don't need this. I'm not even looking at this at all. Because he said that. Yes, that's what I was going for. Because he was saying the passport was on the box. But we didn't mention no goddamn box. Come on, you stupid game. Whatever happened to what led to this to supplement that? Come on now. Because what I was thinking is that what evidence reveals the alleged inconsistency in something prosecutor said. If I was going to go this, I was going to go this first. Then, if there's a following statement as to why he said that, then we press that. This is a trunk that belonged to Inspector Gregson. A metal construction, is it? I certainly is very heavy. What's this? A blood stain. And a relative fresh one too. What? You mean that ain't grease from all the boss's fish and chips? Fresh blood on the inspector's trunk. That suggests that the victim was traveling with that luggage when he was killed. That can't be. There was no mention of any trunk in Scotland Yard's report. Yes, there's a reason for that. Immediately after the inspector's body was discovered, one of the street peddlers made off with the trunk, hoping to sell it. But I found it. Me, with me knows more trouble. Which means that nobody should have known anything about the trunk. Unless, of course, we are talking about somebody who was present when the victim was killed. And yet, during the cross-examination of the witness just now, you said this, Kazuma. Because at the time he was making his way to the steep dock on the northern coast of France, as shown by the passport found in the victim's metal trunk. So the question is, how did you know about the inspector's trunk? We know the man went on a trip to France. Where else would he have put his passport? But you knew it was a metal trunk. Answer me honestly, Kazuma. On the 31st October, where exactly were you? At the port of Dunkirk, on board the SS Grouse. Is that the answer you're looking for, Ryunosuke? Kazuma, what did you... I hadn't considered the possibility before, but If Cosmo was there on this ship, then it can only have been for one purpose. Oh no, Mr. Naruhodo, surely you don't think... Ha 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 ha! Come on, Ryunosuke, you know the rules. The only thing that really talks in the courtroom is hard evidence. As I understand, the Inspector Gregson was always took the case with him when he traveled. So as it stands, you've proved nothing. Kazuma, are you challenging me to prove it that beyond all reasonable doubt? That you were there that day in the same place as the Inspector? You was there? With Gregson? There's a clue that you overlooked, a secret the trunk can tell us. I can be sure on this point. I'll need to verify it, but I have a nasty feeling that I'm going to be right. The accusation made is deeply disturbing, but nevertheless, we must test it. The defense will identify for court where in the trunk the alleged clue was to be found. Where is the evidence that prosecutor Asogi to Inspector Gregson?
Got it!
This is your proof? What do you say to that, prosecutor Asogi? Personally, I think trying the defense counsel to Inspector Trunk is tossing. I swear to God! That better not be what I think it is. I believe that was rather a long-winded way of telling you that you're wrong, Mr. Naruto. The slash is right there! Do I need to press it again? Probably, but we were checking that thing out already before that. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's this thing. What happened? I swear to God, it's gone right through the leather into the metal behind. We went through that yesterday, or the day before, whatever. But whatever made the gas mask shred the side of this trunk in considerable force. I wonder how it happened. We went through that already.
Got it!
What? So it's not the dumb freaking slash? Oh my God. We know the bloodstain. We know the cut. The cut is right there. You're not gonna explain the stupid cut? What else is there then? There's a freaking cut right there. Have a look inside. I swear to God.
Got it!
I swear to God! There's a small piece of metal lodged in the wall of the trunk there, like the tip of a blade. A blade? Kazuma, slung around your waist as ever today, is the esteemed blade Karuma. Of course it is. Won't you draw it here in this courtroom? For all to see? We don't need a stupid blade just to confirm something. We have the freaking... That man is the son of London's most notorious killer. Bailiff? What for... Okay. We don't need a freaking... Oh my God. Sure, it found the thing. But we can already decipher for the freaking slash right there. Jesus Christ. Why it has to be the most littlest details when the big evidence is right there? Just a big old slash on the side. Man! Agreed, Kazuma Asogi. I'm not trying to nitpick an entire thing. If that is just point blank from day one, who else wields a freaking sword in London nowadays? He's the only one that's carrying swords. Expertly done, Ryunosuke. That's a point to you and you well deserve it. Do you mean to tell the court prosecutor Asogi? Yes, on 31st October, I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk in order to carry out a mission. So the additional person authorized to travel was me. And the mission was the assassination of the Mark. What? What? You mean you're the killer whose name was omitted from this notebook? You were following the Reaper's orders to dispatch Judge Jigoku? I still stuttered. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. I have killed no one. Explain. I accepted the assassination mission, yes, and I accompanied Gregson to Dunkirk. But I never had an intention of carrying out the plan. You were never going to do it? We can't believe Kazuma. I'm sure. After all, Judge Jigoku arrived safely in London the following day. On the 31st, I boarded a train from London with Inspector Gregson. We traveled to Dover, from where we crossed the channel to Dunkirk. Then we boarded the SS Grouse and made for the cabin deck as indicted in the plan. You went to Judge Jigoku's cabin? I'm still messing up. Exactly. He wasn't there though. We decided to wait, but you've already told us you had no intention of going through it anyway. I didn't come to Great Britain to take anyone's life, so I left Gregson and disembarked the ship. I spent that night at a boarding house in town and returned to England the following morning. A boarding house in Dunkirk. My signature will be registered in the registered book. It would be simple enough to verify. Lad, what became of Jigoku? Gregson was no assassin, so the mark was spared. I'm sure it's easy enough to imagine what happened after that. Gregson returned to England as well, having failed to complete the mission. He met with the Reaper in the room on the Fresno Street to report the failure, causing the infuriated mastermind to pull the trigger and end his wretched agent's life. That's the real truth behind Inspector Gregson's murder.
Objection!
But if you did nothing as you claim, how did the tip of your sword come to be lodged in the inspector's trunk? I don't need to answer that. The victim was killed by a gunshot. A small fragment of a Japanese blade is relevant to the case, and accordingly I chose to exercise my right to silence on that matter. You plead the fifth. Be that as it may, the court will sequester the sword as evidence. As you wish, my lord. We must take immediate action now to verify whether Seishisho Jigoku remains unharmed. What? Remains unharmed? I agree. That should be our first priority. It's recently come to my attention that he hasn't been seen since yesterday. How did you... When a foreign dignitary invited to Great Britain goes missing for 24 hours, it's only natural that the question of his safety should arise. You don't mean to say that you think that Judge Jigoku may have been killed? The Reaper has more than one assassin at his disposal, and he has the power and influence to give orders from the inside of a prison cell. Isn't that right, Lord Von Zeeks? If I were truly the Reaper, I'd be able to tell you. Order in court. We will take an emergency recess for 30 minutes. Now? Guests of the symposium have been told to maintain regular contact with organizer's office. If the man can't be located within half an hour, we will have to assume the worst. Oh no, not Judge Jigoku. No one would want to kill a harmless Japanese man who only just arrived in the country. Except, that is, for the Reaper, wanting to finish off the mark that slipped through the net 10 years ago. I would have to agree. Mr. Naruhodo, for the defense's sake. My lord! I sincerely hope you were successful. If we're unable to confirm Jigoku's healthy existence in the next 30 minutes, you will face grave difficulties. Court is adjourned for 30 minutes.